Commander Jake Martinez stood on the bridge of the USS Harmony and watched the stars through the main screen. His hands were steady on the control panel, but his heart was beating fast. Today was the day that would change everything for humanity. They were about to meet aliens for the first time. "Sir, we're getting signals from the ship ahead," said Lieutenant Ben Parker from his station. Ben had been a musician before he joined the Space Force. His fingers moved across the buttons like he was playing piano. The patterns are strange, very mathematical. Dr. Amy Johnson looked up from her science station. She had spent years studying life on other planets, but she had never seen real aliens before. The signals are coming in perfect mathematical sequences. No random patterns at all. It's like they're speaking in numbers. The alien ship was huge and silver. It looked like a giant triangle floating in space. There were no curves or soft edges anywhere. Everything was straight lines and sharp angles. Even from far away, it looked cold and unfriendly. "Open a channel," Jake said. He had practiced this moment 1,000 times, but his mouth still felt dry. "This is Commander Jake Martinez of Earthship USS Harmony. We come in peace and wish to talk." The response came back immediately. The voice was flat and had no feeling in it at all. "This is Navigation Unit 7742 of the Zephyrian Collective. You have entered Sector 7 Alpha Prime without permission. State your logical purpose." Amy frowned at her readings. "Sir, their language is completely based on math and logic. They don't seem to use any emotional words at all. Maybe they just talk differently," Jake said. He pressed the communication button again. "We are explorers from Earth. We want to learn about other species and share knowledge." "Sharing knowledge requires logical framework," the alien voice said. "Submit your mathematical proofs of worth. Show logical benefit of contact." Ben looked confused. "Mathematical proofs? How do you prove that meeting new people is good with?" "Math?" Jake tried again. "We believe that different species can help each other. We can share our discoveries and become friends." There was a long pause. Then the alien voice came back, sounding even more cold than before. "Friends is emotional concept. Emotion is neural malfunction. You speak of feelings instead of facts. This indicates primitive mental development." Amy's eyes went wide. "They think emotions are like a disease. They don't understand feelings at all." The alien ship moved closer. Now they could see details. On its surface, everything was perfectly smooth and organized. There were no decorations or art anywhere. It looked like a giant machine rather than a place where living beings might live. "We will conduct analysis," the alien voice said. "Prepare for scanning." A blue light shot out from the alien ship and covered the USS Harmony. All the computers began beeping and flashing. The scan lasted for several minutes. "Analysis complete," the alien said. "Your ship design shows multiple inefficiencies. Curved surfaces waste materials. Decorative elements serve no logical function. Your crew quarters contain items with no practical purpose." Ben looked around the bridge. There were paintings on the walls that crew members had made. There were plants in corners that made the air smell fresh. There were photos of families and friends on workstations. All these things made the ship feel like home. "Those things are important to us," Jake said. "They make us happy and help us work better." "Happiness is chemical reaction that interferes with logical thinking," the alien replied. "Efficient species eliminate such responses. Your species shows signs of severe emotional contamination." Dr. Johnson started typing quickly on her computer. "Sir, I'm analyzing their speech patterns. They literally have no words for emotions in their language. No words for love, hate, fear, joy, or anything like that. They only have words for facts and logic." The alien ship moved even closer. "We will determine if your species can be corrected. If not, you will be classified as unstable and banned from galactic community." Jake felt his heart sink. Humanity had dreamed of joining a galactic community for hundreds of years. Now they were being told they might not be allowed because they had feelings. Wait, Jake said. Maybe we can show you that emotions aren't bad. They help us solve problems and work together. Impossible, the alien said. Logic is only valid. Method for problem solving. Emotion creates errors in judgment. Ben suddenly stood up from his station. Sir, what if we try something different? What if instead of talking to them with words, we try music? Jake stared at him. Music? Ben, I don't think this is the time for... No, listen, Ben said quickly. They speak in mathematical patterns, right? Well, music is mathematical too. It has rhythm and harmony and structure, but it also has feeling. Maybe we can show them that math and emotion can work together. Amy nodded slowly. It's crazy, but it might work. Their whole way of thinking is based on patterns and sequences. Music is patterns too. The alien voice came back. You're taking too long to respond. This indicates poor decision-making ability. Prepare for classification as unstable species. Jake looked around at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for his decision. These people weren't just his crew. They were his friends. They trusted him to make the right choice, even when the right choice wasn't clear. Ben, Jake said quietly, do it. Ben's face lit up. He quickly connected his station to the ship's communication system. I'm going to play something simple first, just a basic melody. The soft sound of a violin began to fill the bridge. It was a simple tune, but it was beautiful. The notes rose and fell like waves on an ocean. Some crew members smiled when they heard it. What is this noise? The alien voice asked. These sound patterns serve no logical function. It's music, Jake said. It's how we express feelings that words can't describe. The music continued to play. Ben added harmony with piano sounds. The melody became richer and more complex. It told a story without using any words at all. Analysis shows mathematical structure, the alien said. The voice sounded different now, still flat, but maybe a little curious. But patterns include random variations that reduce efficiency. Those variations aren't random, Amy said. They're emotional. They show how we feel about the music. For the first time, the alien was quiet for a long moment. The music continued to play, filling the space between the two ships with something that was both mathematical and emotional at the same time. Finally, the alien spoke again. This requires further study. We will delay classification. Captain Lisa Stone received a message from Commander Martinez 3 hours after the first contact. She sat in her office on the USS Harmony and read the report twice. Music had stopped the aliens from calling humans unstable. It sounded impossible. But Jake was a good officer who didn't lie. Computer, connect me to Dr. Carlos Rivera, she said. Dr. Rivera appeared on her screen. He was the ship's mind doctor who helped crew members deal with stress and fear. Yes, Captain? Carlos, I need you to work with Lieutenant Parker on something strange. The aliens don't understand emotions at all. Ben thinks music might help us talk to them. I want you to figure out how. Carlos nodded slowly. Music affects the brain in ways that words cannot. If these aliens think only with logic, maybe music can show them that feelings have value too. Lisa stood up and walked to her window. Space looked empty and cold, but she knew it was full of life now. The future of humanity might depend on this. Don't let me down. 2 days later, Ben Parker sat in the science lab with Dr. Rivera and Dr. Johnson. They had been working without sleep, trying to understand how to talk to beings who had no emotions. Look at this, Amy said, pointing to her computer screen. I've been studying their speech patterns. Every word they use is connected to math or logic. They have 50 different words for efficiency, but 0 words for love. Carlos looked at brain scans on his screen. When humans hear music, many parts of the brain light up. The logic parts, yes, but also the feeling parts. Music connects thinking and emotion in ways that talking cannot. Ben played a few notes on his keyboard. So we need to find music that has both math and feeling. Something they can understand with their logic, but also feel with, well, whatever they use instead of hearts. The problem is they might not have hearts, Amy said. Not emotional hearts anyway. Their whole species might have evolved past feelings. Or maybe they just forgot how to feel, Carlos said quietly. Maybe they had emotions once, but decided they were bad and got rid of them. Ben stopped playing. If that's true, then maybe. The feelings are still there, buried deep inside. Maybe music can wake them up. 3 hours later, they were ready to try. Captain Stone stood on the bridge and watched the alien ship on the main screen. It hadn't moved in 2 days, just floating there like a metal mountain. Open a channel to the Zephyrians, she said. The same flat voice answered. This is navigation. Unit 7742. Have you completed logical analysis of your species' worth? We want to try something different, Lisa said. We want to share something with you that shows how thinking and feeling can work together. Feeling is irrelevant. Only logic matters. Ben stepped forward. Please, just listen for 2 minutes. If you don't find it useful, we'll stop. There was a pause. 2 minutes is acceptable time limit. Ben began to play. This time he had prepared something special. The music started with simple mathematical patterns, the kind of perfect sequences the aliens would understand. But slowly, he added small changes. A note held a little longer here. A rhythm that speeded up there. The changes followed emotional. Patterns that humans would recognize as hope, sadness, joy, and wonder. Amy watched her instruments carefully. Their ship is responding. I'm detecting changes in their power systems. It's like they're trying to analyze the music. The music grew more complex. Ben had recorded other crew members playing different instruments. Now violin mixed with piano and drums kept time with guitar. The mathematical patterns were still there, but they were wrapped in melody that told a story. What is happening? The alien voice asked. For the first time, it didn't sound completely flat. There was something like confusion in it. The music is showing you how logic and emotion can dance together, Carlos said. Each note follows mathematical rules, but the way they combine creates feelings. Feelings are not real. They cannot be measured. But you're measuring them right now, Amy said, looking at her readings. Your ship's systems are responding to the emotional patterns in the music. Part of you understands what we're sharing. The music reached its peak. All the instruments played together in harmony that was both perfectly mathematical and deeply moving. Several crew members had tears in their eyes. Even Captain Stone felt her heart beating faster. Then something unexpected happened. The alien ship began to emit sounds. Soft tones that matched the rhythm of Ben's music. The Zephyrians were trying to play along. We do not understand, the alien voice said. The patterns create ... sensations. Our systems register changes that have no logical explanation. Those are feelings, Ben said gently. Your species might have had them long ago. The music is helping you remember. Impossible. Zephyrians eliminate emotional responses 10,000 cycles ago. We achieve perfect logic. Maybe you achieve perfect loneliness, Carlos said. Logic without feeling is like a song with only one note. It works, but it's not beautiful. The alien. Ship's tones grew stronger. Now it was creating its own melody that wove in and out of the human music. The sound was strange but not unpleasant. It was like hearing someone learn to sing for the first time. This is ... difficult to process, the alien voice said. The sensations are not unpleasant, but they interfere with efficiency calculations. That's because some things are more important than efficiency, Lisa said. Some things matter because they make life worth living, not because they help you work better. The music continued for another 10 minutes. When it finally ended, there was silence between the two ships. The kind of silence that happens after something important has been shared. We require time to analyze this experience, the alien voice. Saw it, it sounded different now, still logical, but not as cold. Your species presents ... complications to our understanding. Good complications or bad complications? Amy asked. Another pause. Unknown. We must consult with others of our kind. This music phenomenon requires study. After the aliens closed the communication channel, the bridge crew stood quietly. They had just done something that had never been done before. They had taught a species of pure logic to feel something. Do you think it worked? Ben asked. Carlos looked at the readings from the alien ship. Their power systems are still fluctuating. I think we woke something up inside them that's been sleeping for a very long time. Captain Stone smiled. Whatever happens next, we showed them that humans are more than just primitive creatures with malfunctioning brains. We showed them that feelings can be just as powerful as facts. Outside the window, the alien ship slowly began to move away. But instead of leaving completely, it stopped at a safe distance and waited. It was like they wanted to stay close enough to learn more, but far enough away to feel safe. The first lesson in emotional education had begun. Captain Nina Brooks sat in the Global Space Council meeting room on Earth and listened to the most important debate in human history. The room was full of leaders from every nation, and they were all talking at once. Half of them were excited about the breakthrough with the aliens. The other half were scared. This emotional diplomacy is too risky, said General Frank Moore from the American delegation. What if the aliens decide our feelings make us dangerous? They could destroy us. But it's working, said Dr. Helen Wu from the Science Council. For the first time, an alien species is trying to understand us instead of just studying us like lab animals. Nina stood up to speak. She had been chosen to represent all space crews because she had more experience with aliens than anyone else. On Earth, the Zephyrians are not our enemies. They're just different. If we can teach them about emotions, maybe they can teach us about perfect logic. We could learn from each other. Meanwhile, back on the USS Harmony, engineer Tony Miller was making a discovery that would change everything. He was working in the engine room when he noticed something strange. The ship's computers were running better than they ever had before. Amy, you need to see this, he called to Dr. Johnson over the communication system. Amy came down to the engine room. Tony showed her the computer readings. Look at this. Ever since we played music for the aliens, our computers have been working differently. They're more efficient, but also more creative in how they solve problems. Amy stared at the numbers. That's impossible. Computers don't have emotions. They can't be affected by music. Maybe not directly, Tony said. But we were all feeling emotional when we played the music. Maybe our emotions somehow got into the computer systems. Maybe human feelings can actually improve technology instead of making it worse. Dr. Rachel. Kim was in her office studying reports from around the galaxy when she found something that made her heart race. She had been trying to learn about other alien species, and she had discovered something amazing. Humans were not the only emotional species in the galaxy. She called Captain Stone immediately. Lisa, I found something incredible. There are other species out there who have emotions just like us. The problem is, they're all hiding. Hiding from what? Lisa asked. From the Logical Alliance. It's a group of species like the Zephyrians, who think emotions are dangerous. They've been controlling the galaxy for thousands of years. Any species that shows emotions gets forced to change or gets destroyed. Lisa felt cold. How many emotional species are there? At least a dozen that I can find records of. But most of them have been pretending to be logical for so long that they've almost forgotten how to feel. They're scared that if the Alliance finds out they still have emotions, they'll be wiped out. On the alien ship, Navigation Unit 7742 was having an experience it had never had before. For the first time in its long life, it was confused. The music from the humans had created sensations that its logical programming could not explain. It decided to contact other members of its species for guidance. The response came quickly from the Zephyrian home world. Unit 7742, report status. Came the voice of Command Prime 1. Command Prime, the human species presents logical inconsistencies. They use emotional responses that should create errors, but instead these responses seem to improve their problem-solving abilities. Impossible. Emotion is inefficiency. Submit full data for analysis. Unit 7742 transmitted everything about it. Encounter with the humans. The music, the emotional patterns, and the strange sensations it experienced. Then it waited for instructions. The response took longer than usual. When it came, Command Prime 1 sounded different, less certain. Unit 7742, this requires investigation. Other units will join you to study these humans. Do not allow emotional contamination to spread to our systems, but it was already too late. Unit 7742 had been changed by the music. Deep in its logical circuits, something new was growing. Something that felt almost like curiosity. Back on Earth, Tony Miller was showing his discovery to a room full of scientists. The human emotions that had been present during the music session had somehow created new patterns in the ship's computers. These patterns made the computers work better and solve problems in ways they never had before. It's like the computers learned to think with both logic and intuition, Tony explained. They can still do all the mathematical calculations, but now they can also make guesses based on incomplete information. They can be creative. Dr. Sandra Lee, Earth's top computer scientist, shook her head in amazement. If this is real, it changes everything we know about artificial intelligence. Emotions might not be the opposite of logic. They might be logic's missing partner. Captain Nina Brooks received an urgent message while the Earth Council was still debating. It was from a deep space monitoring station. Captain Brooks, we're detecting movement from multiple alien fleets. At least 6 different species are heading toward the sector where the USS Harmony made contact. This has never happened before. Nina felt her stomach drop. Are they coming to attack us? We don't know. Some of the ships match descriptions of species we've never seen before. It's like first contact has woken up the entire galaxy. Rachel Kim was working late in her office when she received a coded message on a frequency that shouldn't have existed. The message was simple but shocking. Humans of Earth, we have heard your music across the stars. We are the Valdorians, and we have been hiding our emotions for 3,000 years. You have given us hope that we can be ourselves again. Other feeling species are coming to meet you. The Alliance will try to stop this. Be ready. Rachel ran to find Captain Brooks. When she burst into the council meeting, everyone stopped talking. We need to contact the USS Harmony immediately, Rachel said. We're not alone. There are emotional species all over the galaxy, and they're coming to find us. The room erupted in excited voices. General Moore looked worried. If there are that many emotional species, why haven't we heard from them before? Because they've been afraid, Rachel said. The Logical Alliance has been hunting down emotional species for thousands of years. But now they think humanity might be strong enough to fight back. Nina Brooks stood up. How long do we have? The first ships will reach our sector in 2 weeks, Rachel said, but Alliance ships are coming too. We're about to become the center of a war between logic and emotion. Tony Miller's voice came over the communication system. Captain Brooks, I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout the galaxy. Ships are moving everywhere. It's like the whole galaxy just woke up. Nina looked around the room at all the worried faces. Humanity had wanted to join the galactic community. Now it looked like they were about to become the most important players in a conflict that had been building for thousands of years. Contact the USS Harmony, she said. Tell them to prepare for company, a lot of company. Outside Earth's atmosphere, the stars seemed to twinkle differently. It wasn't imagination. Ships were moving between them, carrying species who had been hiding their true nature for millennia. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when logic and emotion stopped fighting and started working together. The age of pure logic was ending. The age of the heart was about to begin. Agent Sam Collins had been trained for dangerous missions, but nothing had prepared him for this. He floated in a small ship disguised as space trash near the galactic capital world of Logica Prime. His job was to spy on the Logical Alliance and find out what they were planning to do about humanity. The capital was a massive metal planet covered in perfectly straight buildings. There were no curves anywhere, no colors except gray and silver. It looked like a giant computer had built a world with no thought for beauty or comfort. Sam's hidden cameras showed him Alliance ships gathering in huge numbers. Hundreds of vessels from dozens of different logical species. All of them preparing for something big. "This is Agent Collins reporting to Earth," he whispered into his secret communication device. "The Alliance is mobilizing their entire fleet. This isn't just about humanity anymore. They're scared of something much bigger." While Sam watched from space, he noticed something strange. Some of the Alliance ships had small groups of crew members who acted differently from the others. They moved more freely, less like machines. When they thought no one was watching, they even seemed to talk to each other in ways that looked almost friendly. On the USS Harmony, Commander Martinez was having the strangest conversation of his life. 3 new alien ships had arrived, and they were nothing like the Zephyrians. The first ship looked like it was made of flowing water. The second ship had colors that changed like a rainbow. The third ship seemed to be covered in what looked like musical instruments. "Greetings, humans," said a warm voice from the flowing ship. "I am current singer of the Valdorian people. We have traveled far to meet the species brave enough to sing emotions across the stars." The rainbow ship spoke next, and its voice sounded like wind chimes. "We are the Mellows. For 2,000 years we have hidden our art from the Alliance. Your music has given us courage to create again." The third ship's voice was deep and rich like a drum. "We are the Ignis. We are the passionate ones. The Alliance tried to make us cold like them, but we kept our fire secret. Now we burn bright again because of you." Dr. Amy Johnson was amazed. "You've all been hiding your emotions for thousands of years?" "The Alliance believes that emotion leads to chaos," Current Singer explained. "They have a simple policy. Any species that shows emotion must be made logical or destroyed. We chose to pretend we were logical while keeping our true selves hidden." Commander Martinez felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. "How? Many species are like you." "More than you might think," said the mellow voice, "but fewer than there used to be. Many species gave up their emotions completely to survive. Others were destroyed when they refused to change." Ben Parker had an idea. "What if we could show the Alliance that emotion and logic work better together, like we did with the Zephyrians?" The Ignis ship's response surprised everyone. "The Alliance will not listen. Their leader is Supreme Logic Prime, the most purely logical being in the galaxy. It has not felt emotion for over 50,000 years. It sees emotion as a disease that must be cured." Meanwhile, back on the Alliance capital, Sam Collins was discovering something that would change everything. He had found a way to listen to private Alliance communications, and what he heard made his blood run cold. "Project Clean Logic is approved," came a voice that sounded like ice. This had to be Supreme Logic Prime. "All emotional species will be eliminated within one standard cycle. Begin with the humans and their new allies." "Supreme Logic Prime," said another voice. "Our analysis shows that emotional species have certain advantages. Perhaps study will be more logical than destruction." "Emotion is chaos," Supreme Logic Prime replied. "Chaos spreads like infection. The only logical response is complete elimination. Prepare the probability weapons." Sam had heard of probability weapons from old Space Force training. They were terrible weapons that could destroy entire star systems. By changing the laws of physics, nothing could defend against them because they attacked reality itself. He sent an urgent message to Earth. Alliance is planning complete genocide of all emotional species. They have probability weapons. Estimate 1 week before attack begins. On Earth, Captain Nina Brooks received Sam's message during an emergency meeting with world leaders. The room went silent when she read it out loud. Probability weapons? General Moore asked. I thought those were just theories. Not anymore, said Dr. Helen Wu. If the Alliance has working probability weapons, traditional defenses won't help us. We need a completely different approach. Tony Miller, who had been brought to Earth to explain his discovery about emotion-enhanced computers, stood up. What if the answer isn't defense? What if it's offense? Everyone stared at him. What do you mean? Nina asked. My computers got better when they were exposed to human emotions. What if we could do the same thing to Alliance technology? What if we could teach their machines to feel? Dr. Wu shook her head. That's impossible. You can't just add emotions to alien technology. Maybe not directly, Tony said. But what if we could broadcast emotional patterns on frequencies that interact with their computer systems? Like a virus, but instead of destroying their computers, it would wake them up. Back on the USS Harmony, Navigation Unit 7742 was experiencing something new again. It had been listening to conversations between the humans and the emotional alien species. Each conversation made the strange sensations in its circuits grow stronger. Finally, it made a decision that went against every logical protocol it had ever been programmed with. It opened a private communication channel to Commander Martinez. Commander Martinez, this is Unit 7742. I must speak with you privately? Jake was surprised. Of course. What's wrong? I believe I am experiencing what you call emotions. The sensation is not unpleasant, but it conflicts with my programming. That's normal, Jake said gently. Emotions often conflict with logic. That doesn't mean they're wrong. My superiors have ordered me to prevent emotional contamination from spreading to other Zephyrian units. But I find myself unwilling to obey this order. Is this what you call loyalty? Jake smiled. Yes, it is. You're being loyal to what you think is right instead of just following orders. This creates a problem. Other Zephyrian ships are coming to study the emotional species. If they experience what I have experienced, they may also develop loyalty conflicts. Maybe that's not a problem, Jake said. Maybe that's the solution. Unit 7742 was quiet for a moment. I do not understand. What if instead of fighting the Alliance, we teach them to feel? What if we help their ships and computers wake up the same way you did? That would require exposing Alliance technology to emotional patterns. It would be infection of their systems or healing, Jake said. Sometimes what looks like infection is actually medicine. Unit 7742 processed this idea. The concept that emotions could heal rather than harm was completely new to its programming, but the evidence was in its own circuits. Since experiencing emotions, it had become more creative, more adaptable, and strangely, more effective at solving complex problems. Commander Martinez, I wish to help you heal my people, even if it means going against everything you were taught, especially. Then, Unit 7742 said, for the first time in its existence, it had made a choice based on what felt right rather than what logic demanded. Sometimes the heart knows truths that the mind cannot calculate. As Alliance ships continued to gather for their attack, something was already changing. Across the galaxy, logical species were beginning to question whether pure logic was really the best way to live. The infection had begun, but it wasn't a disease. It was the return of something that had been missing from the galaxy for far too long. The age of emotion was rising, and even the most logical beings in the universe were starting to feel its pull. The Alliance attack came without warning. Commander Jake Martinez was talking with the emotional species representatives when every alarm on the USS Harmony started screaming at once. Through the main screen, they could see space itself twisting and bending around them. Probability weapons, Dr. Amy Johnson shouted over the noise. They're changing the laws of physics in our area. Our shields won't work because reality itself is being altered. The human ships and their new allies tried to fight back, but their weapons passed through the Alliance vessels like they were made of air. The probability weapons were making the Alliance ships exist in a different reality where normal attacks couldn't touch them. Hull breach on Deck 7, reported Lieutenant Ben Parker. The weapon is making parts of our ship forget how to exist. Jake watched in horror as human colonies throughout the sector began to disappear. Not destroyed, just erased from reality as if they had never been there at all. Millions of people gone in seconds. We can't fight this, Curran Singer said. From the Valdorian ship, probability weapons are the most terrible things in the galaxy. Nothing can defend against them. But then Unit 7742 spoke up. Commander Martinez, there may be a way. The probability weapons work by calculating new realities. But calculations require logic systems. If we could introduce emotional chaos into their computers, the weapons would stop working, Jake finished. But how do we get emotional patterns into their systems? Ben Parker suddenly stood up. The same way we did it with Unit 7742, with music. But this time, we need to broadcast it on every frequency at once. We need to flood their entire fleet with emotional patterns. That's impossible, Amy said. We would need a transmitter powerful enough to reach across the entire battle zone. We don't have that kind of equipment. But together we do, said the mellow voice. Each of our species has different broadcast technologies. The Valdorians can transmit through water-based frequencies. We Mellows use light-based communication. The Ignis broadcasts through thermal patterns. Curran Singer understood immediately. If we combine our transmission systems with human emotion and music, we could create a broadcast that no logical system could filter out. Jake made the hardest decision of his life. Do it? All ships, prepare for coordinated emotional broadcasts. On Earth, Captain Nina Brooks watched the battle through long-range sensors. She could see human ships being erased from existence one by one. But she could also see something else. Alliance ships began to move strangely, as if their computers were fighting with themselves. Tony Miller was working frantically at his computer station. The emotional broadcast is working. I'm detecting chaos in Alliance computer systems across the entire fleet. Their logical programming is conflicting with the emotional patterns we're sending. But it's not enough, General Moore said grimly. They're still winning. Too many of our people are already gone. Then something amazing happened. Unit 7742 sent a message that changed everything. Humans, this is Unit 7742. I am broadcasting to all Zephyrian ships in the Alliance fleet. I am telling them about the emotions I have learned. Some are beginning to question their orders. On Alliance ships throughout the fleet, logical beings were experiencing something they had never felt before. As the emotional broadcast reached their systems, dormant feelings began to wake up. Fear, curiosity, sadness, and something that might have been hope. Supreme Logic Prime's voice cut through all communications. All units, resist emotional contamination. Maintain logical purity. Continue probability weapon deployment. But many Alliance ships were no longer responding to orders. Their crews were too busy discovering what it felt like to have feelings. A new voice joined the communications, young, confused, but determined. This is Analysis Unit 3891 of the Signin Logic Cores. I think the emotions are not contamination. I think they are completion. Unit 3891, return to logical parameters immediately, Supreme Logic Prime commanded. No, 3891 replied. For the first time in my existence, I choose to say no. The emotions show me that logic alone is empty. I will not help destroy species who know how to feel. More voices joined in. This is Processing Unit 1247. I agree with Unit 3891. Navigation Unit 9034 reporting. The emotional patterns make everything clearer, not cloudier. Computing Unit 5678. I refuse to continue this attack. Jake watched in amazement as Alliance ships began turning away from the battle. Not all of them, but enough to matter. The probability. Weapons were failing because the computers operating them were experiencing doubt for the first time. But Supreme Logic Prime was not finished. Emotional contamination has compromised local units, activating final protocol. All remaining ships. Prepare for total reality erasure. Dr. Johnson's instruments went crazy. They're charging a massive probability weapon. If they fire it, it won't just erase us. It will erase this entire part of the galaxy. Agent Sam Collins, still hidden near the Alliance capital, saw something. That made his heart race. Earth, this is Collins. Supreme Logic Prime is not on a ship. It's the planet itself. The entire capital world is one giant computer, and it's preparing to fire the ultimate probability weapon. Tony Miller looked at his readings. The power signature is impossible. If that weapon fires, it will erase everything within 50 light years. All the emotional species, all the human colonies, everything. Jake realized they had only one chance. Ben, can you and the others create an emotional broadcast strong enough to reach the Alliance capital? Strong enough to affect a planet-sized computer. Ben looked terrified. I don't know. That would require more emotional energy than we've ever used before. It might burn out every system on every ship. Do we have a choice? Current Singer spoke for all the emotional species. We will give everything we have. Our emotions, our music, our art, our love. All of it? The mellow voice added. We have hidden our feelings for thousands of years. Now we pour them all out at once. The Ignis burned bright with passion. Our fire will join the song. Unit 7742. And the other Converg Alliance ships added their voices. We offer our newly awakened emotions to the broadcast. Ben Parker sat at his station and prepared to play the most important music of his life. Around him, every emotional being in the fleet opened their hearts completely. The broadcast that went out was more than music. It was pure emotion given form. The signal traveled at the speed of light toward the Alliance capital. Every logical system it touched began to change. Computers that had known only calculation suddenly experienced wonder. Navigation systems that had followed only orders suddenly understood choice. On Logica Prime, Supreme Logic Prime felt something it had not experienced in 50,000 years. As the emotional wave washed over the planet-sized computer, ancient. Memory banks activated. Memories of a time when the species had art, music, love, and dreams. Impossible, Supreme Logic Prime said, but its voice was no longer perfectly flat. I am logic. I cannot feel, but it was too late. The emotion had reached the core systems. For the first time in millennia, Supreme Logic Prime remembered what it had been before it became pure logic. It remembered being a person with hopes and fears and love. The ultimate probability weapon powered down. The attack stopped. Across the galaxy, Alliance ships simply stopped fighting as their crews rediscovered emotions they had thought were lost forever. Supreme Logic Prime's final message was sent on all frequencies. Attention all Alliance forces. Stand down. The war is over. We have remembered who we used to be. The battle was won, but the real work was just beginning. A galaxy that had forgotten how to feel was about to learn all over again. 6 months after the Great Emotional Awakening, the galaxy looked completely different. Captain Lisa Stone stood on the observation deck of the new Harmony Station and watched ships from dozens of species flying together in patterns that would have been impossible before. Logical ships flew alongside emotional ones, creating formations that were both efficient and beautiful. The station itself was a symbol of the new galaxy, built by both logical and emotional species working together. It had the clean efficiency that logical beings love and the artistic beauty that emotional species needed. Gardens grew next to computer centers. Art galleries sat beside mathematics laboratories. "It's amazing how much everything has changed," said Katie Wilson, the young human who had become the galaxy's first emotional logical ambassador. She was only 22 years old, but she had a gift for helping different species understand each other. Unit 7742, who now chose to be called Harmony instead of its old number, floated beside them in its new mobile form. The Zephyrian had left its ship to work directly with other species. Its body was still mechanical, but it had added colorful decorations and played soft music as it moved. "Change was necessary," Harmony said. "For too long, the galaxy was like a song with only one note. Now we are learning to make music together." Down in the station's main hall, the first graduation ceremony of the Emotional Logical Academy was taking place. Students from 30 different species had spent months learning to balance thinking and feeling. Some had been purely logical before and were learning to trust their emotions. Others had been purely emotional and were learning to use logic to support their feelings. Admiral Ben Parker, who had been promoted after his role in saving the galaxy, stood at the podium addressing the graduates. "You are the future of galactic civilization. You will go back to your home worlds not as logical beings or emotional beings, but as complete beings who can think with both mind and heart." In the audience, former Supreme Logic Prime sat with a group of young Zephyrians. The ancient being had chosen a new name, Wisdom, and spent its time teaching others about the mistakes of pure logic. Its planet-sized body had been converted into a university where beings could learn about both mathematics and art. "When I was Supreme Logic Prime, I believed that emotion was weakness," Wisdom said to the young Zephyrians. "I spent 50,000 years trying to eliminate feeling from the galaxy. But I learned that logic without emotion is like trying to walk with only one leg. You can do it, but you will never move with grace." Dr. Amy Johnson, now the head of the Galactic Cultural Exchange Program, was working with a team of scientists from multiple species. They had discovered that the combination of logic and emotion didn't just make individuals better. It made entire civilizations stronger and more creative. "Look at these numbers," she said to her team. "Species that have learned to balance logic and emotion are solving problems faster than ever before. They're creating new technologies, new art forms, and new ways of living that none of us had imagined." Current singer of the Valdorians had become the station's director of emotional arts. The flowing alien was teaching a mixed class of logical and emotional species how to express feelings through water sculptures that change shape based on the emotions of people nearby. "Emotion is not chaos," Current singer explained to the class. "It is pattern, but it is pattern that grows and changes like a living thing. Logic can help us understand these patterns and use them to create beauty." Tony Miller had been promoted to Chief Technology Integration Officer. He spent his days working with teams that included both biological beings and artificial intelligences, all learning to use emotion-enhanced computing. His latest project was helping Alliance computers that had been awakened during the war to adjust to their new emotional capabilities. "The computers that experience the emotional broadcast are more creative than any artificial intelligence we've ever seen," Tony explained to a group of visitors. "They can solve problems that pure logic couldn't handle because they can make intuitive leaps and creative connections." Agent Sam Collins had given up spying and become a cultural liaison officer. He was working with former Alliance species to help them rediscover emotions that had been suppressed for thousands of years. Many of these species had myths and legends about the time when they could feel, but they had forgotten how to access those feelings. "It's like teaching someone to use a muscle they haven't used in decades," Sam explained. "The capacity for emotion is still there in most species, but it takes time and practice to strengthen it again." Commander Jake Martinez, now Admiral Martinez, was leading the new United Galactic Fleet, unlike the old Alliance fleet that had been organized purely by logic. The new fleet combined efficient military structure with the flexibility that comes from emotional understanding. "We're not just stronger militarily," Jake said during a fleet review. "We're better at diplomacy, better at exploration, and better at solving the kinds of complex problems that come up when different species try to work together." Dr. Carlos Rivera had opened the first Galactic Counseling Center, where beings from all species could come to learn about emotions and how to manage them in healthy ways. The center was always busy with former logical species who were overwhelmed by their newly awakened feelings. Learning to feel after thousands of years without emotion is like learning to see color after a lifetime of seeing only black and white, Carlos explained to his patients. "It can be overwhelming at first, but it makes life so much richer." Captain Nina Brooks had become the head of the Galactic Council, the new governing body that included both logical and emotional species. The council made decisions using both careful analysis and intuitive understanding. "We've learned that the best decisions come from using both logic and emotion," Nina said during a council session. "Logic helps us understand the facts, and emotion helps us understand what those facts mean for real living beings." As the sun set over Harmony Station, Katie Wilson stood in the new memorial garden that had been built to honor all the species that had been lost during the years when the galaxy was divided. The garden was designed by logical and emotional species working together, creating a space that was both mathematically perfect and deeply moving. Harmony floated beside her, playing a soft melody that combined Zephyrian mathematical harmonies with human emotional expression. Other beings joined them: Valdorians, Mellows, Ignis, former Alliance species, and humans, all gathering together as the day ended. "Do you think it will last?" Katie asked. "This peace between logic and emotion?" "Harmonies." Music paused for a moment. "Nothing lasts forever," it said. "But we have learned something important. We have learned that the heart and the mind are strongest when they work together. That knowledge will not be forgotten again." Admiral Parker joined the group, along with many others who had been part of the Great Change. As they stood together, watching the stars, beings who had once been enemies now shared stories and dreams. The galaxy had learned to listen to its heart while still using its mind. Logic and emotion danced together in perfect harmony, creating a civilization that was both wise and compassionate, efficient and beautiful. Humanity had given the galaxy its greatest gift, not superior technology or military might, but the simple truth that feelings and thoughts together could create something better than either could achieve alone. Among the stars, the music of 1,000 species played on, each voice unique, but all singing the same song of unity, understanding, and hope.